Hi everyone and welcome to the latest edition of the Bison video blog. Along with Jeff Kolpak, I'm Dom Izzo. This is Coaching Rumors Central over the next month, and it has been in the past month as well, with coaches coming and going. North Dakota State now has an open men's and women's basketball job here, Jeffrey, after Saul Phillips has left NDSU, officially being introduced today as we speak at Ohio. It all came together pretty quickly. As we talked to him over the weekend, he was in Dallas for the Final Four, gets a call on Friday from the search firm saying, we'd like to meet with you, and then by Saturday night, he's the new head coach at Ohio.
But didn't you think this is how it's going to happen?
Yeah, it was going to happen.
I don't think you need to look very far and very too in-depth into his background to know that this guy is probably the right fit for a job like that. For a couple of reasons. One, he wins. You got to win, and you have to win with the right players, which he has done. There hasn't been any real scandals following him. You don't hear a lot of disciplinary problems with the program. In fact, name the last time there was something.
Yeah, DeJuan Flowers would be the last one, and that was 5 years ago, I want to say. And that was a long time
What does that
ago.
tell you?
Yeah.
That tells you he's running a clean ship.
He goes for $550,000 a year, a 5-year deal. I think a lot of Bison fans will say Ohio and wonder, why is that the right move? Tell us why Ohio. It makes all the sense in the world.
Well, 2 words.
Well, the money first, yeah.
Sweet and 16 is what they qualified in 2012. This program's a perennial winner, and it attracts good players. It attracts players who put that program on the map for a long time. The last 4 coaches, correct, have not been fired.
No.
They have not resigned, but they, in fact, have moved up.
The last 2 to high major jobs. John Gross is coaching at Illinois right now, and Jim Christian just left Ohio to go to the ACC in Boston College. And you'd be naive to think that Phillips isn't thinking that as well, that possibly maybe before his contract is done. I know he says he wants to finish it out, but that's where the trajectory of this job has led people, is to into the high major. And obviously he would love probably to get into the Big Ten eventually.
Well, there's the Division I coaching profession is really a fraternity, like we've known over the years. And these guys know what jobs are good and what jobs are maybe iffy and what jobs you don't want.
Right.
And when Ohio surfaced, I bet it took Saul 5 seconds to figure out that he wanted the job.
It took me about 10 seconds to text you when I saw that Ohio was open. Like, this is a danger one for Bison fans. So now going forward, where do they go? And obviously we've talked about this. Dave Richmond has told both you and I and Gene Taylor he wants to be the guy. He's been Saul's right-hand man for the last 7 years. He's a Bison alum, a Wahpeton native. Is it his job to lose?
I think it's 99% his job, if you ask me to put a percentage on it, for a couple of reasons. Number one, Saul's always said that if Dave needs a job with him, he's got it for life. Well, Jason Kemp just got hired as the lead assistant. So what I think, obviously, Saul and Gene know. They've talked over the years, and maybe there's calls placed that, hey, Gene, how seriously are you considering Dave Richmond? And if Gene, I'm guessing, said, well, pretty serious, he could be named today. I mean, it's possible. I think it's going to be sooner and later, as you do too, that they could be a 4 o'clock press conference today, or it could be tomorrow morning. I think it's going to happen real soon.
We do know, as you just mentioned, Jason Kemp, who was on Saul Phillips' staff until last year, he left for Toledo, is going with Saul to Ohio. Will Ryan is also leaving NDSU staff and going with Phillips to Athens. I imagine that Freddie Coleman and Josh Vaughn are staying. I don't know that for a fact. What do you think, though? If it is Dave's job, does he keep his the current staff with him?
Certainly, I think you keep at least Freddie or Josh, or maybe one will follow Saul. Saul said in another spot, still up for grabs, but he indicated in his press conference that if you look at Jason Kemp, you look at Will Ryan, you see the direction I'm going with, which would lead me to believe that it's going to be one of those coaches that he's coached with before. And that's what you do when you're head coach. You don't hire guys in the dark. You don't look at resumes and go, hey, he might be a good fit. You look at guys that you know you can work with.
And you look at just what happened with football, that Craig Bohl took most of his staff with him to Wyoming. A thing that we've been asked about on the live chat on Sunday, and we've been asked about on Twitter as well, is just about salary-wise, what NDSU does from here. Because obviously Saul Phillips tripled his salary to go from Fargo to Athens. Gene Taylor told us both on our Saturday show that he knows we've got to raise the pay scale at NDSU. What does that mean? Does that mean $200,000? Does it mean more than that to be the next head coach for NDSU?
I don't see it being raised drastically. I think if Dave gets the job, what was Saul making? 175, maybe 2. I think that would be a realistic number. It's a barrier. Okay, now you're at least 200, and then where do you go from here? But considering that Dave's never been a head coach, And is there any other offers out there for him? Probably not. This is the obvious one that he would get. I don't think you have to pay him $300. I think you can say, okay, here's $200 and I'll prove something.
It's going to be wild in the Summit League next year. More than half the league could have new men's basketball coaches. We already know IUPUI, USD, and NDSU will have new coaches. And we're hearing Western Illinois with Jim Molinari possibly joining Tim Miles and Nebraska. And Tony Jasic is the favorite to be named at Jacksonville at Fort Wayne. That means 5 of the 9 teams in the Summit League will have new coaches next season.
Scott Nagy is like, he's not only the grandfather, he's like the great grandfather of this league.
But that's what happens in this kind of level of basketball. It just does.
Well, and if you're one of those teams that sees a coach move on, that's a good thing. Because that means this guy did a good job and did something to elevate your program.
Only I could see at USD and IUPUI where they're looking to make a change because performance on the floor was not satisfactory, and that's what they did with those 2 schools. On the women's side, some news today that you broke, I know in the paper, that this search has been ongoing for about a month. First candidate is on campus. That's Penn State assistant Maren Walseth. What can you tell us about her?
Well, she's a Bloomington Jefferson legend.
Yeah.
Actually, I think she's in the Hall of Fame. Great player at Penn State, played in the WNBA, played overseas in France, does a lot of the recruiting at Penn State, at least that's what her bio says. I think it's a good candidate to have on campus for sure because you're talking a Big Ten candidate who's looking
at a program that's been really, really good. Penn State was in the national tournament again. I mean, that's the kind of the candidate that would get Bison fans interested about women's basketball.
Here's the one question I would ask this candidate. Can you recruit?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd ask her too. Can you recruit?
Because that's the biggest question, obviously, that surrounds
It's obviously the number
program.
one thing. It's been, without a doubt, the number one thing that's been missing here with the women's program.
That's been hindering them since the Division I move, basically, since they moved up and obviously got into the Summit League. We still have 3 weeks left of spring football. Big news yesterday that we found out is King Frazier will have surgery on his meniscus tomorrow, injured in a non-contact drill, as you reported on Friday. Obviously, he's the big transfer from Nebraska. This was a huge month for him and for the Bison coaching staff to get a look at what he was going to bring to the table. They know a bit, obviously, from tape of what they saw at Nebraska, but to integrate into a new offense, and he told us that as much that he was looking forward to this month. He is a possibility he could come back, but there's maybe a stronger one. He may not practice for the rest of the month.
I'm sure they'll hold him out now, that unless it's just the best case scenario that you could imagine. Meniscus, you're already a third way through spring football. And it's unfortunate, isn't it? Because this is the one guy that we needed to see.
Absolutely.
As far as, in a scrimmage situation. So that leaves John Crockett and Chase Morlock as the 1-2.
Darius Anderson in the mix as well,
Exactly. And then now King's going to have to do this rehab over the summer and come into the fall and try to make a name for himself. I think he will. This is not an ACL. He will be back, and it's a long season, so I think you'll hear from him again.
First scrimmage is on Saturday. We get probably our first real look at what the team will look like outside of obviously the 9 guys. I believe we're allowed to check it out. We'll be inside the premises. Obviously without the 9 guys, the 9 starters who are sitting out this spring. What are you looking forward to? Who would you like to see in this scrimmage coming up on Saturday?
It's no secret. We're looking at the defensive interior. Can they hold up to the NDSU offensive line? They're facing some offensive line guys that are pretty big. These guys are
pretty big. They're huge. Landon Leckler's a giant.
What a story. He comes in 6'7", 245. Now he's 6'7", somewhere around 300. And
it makes Jack Plankers look tiny. And he's a huge guy.
It's a good thing Carson Wentz is like 6'10".
To look over him. You focus on that, and that's obviously a big thing. I'm looking to see Carson Wentz. This is his first time. He knows he's getting handed the keys to the offense. And I'd like to see the backup quarterback race as well, of who's going to take that helm, because that's something that Chris Kleiman told us before spring practice started. We knew that if Brock Jensen got hurt, was his quote, that we wouldn't miss a beat with Carson Wentz. And obviously that is a great unknown, A, with Wentz, and then B, if it's going to be Cole Davis or Derek McGinnis to be the backup to him over the next month.
Early word in camp, it's Carson Wentz, big-time arm.
Yeah, we've seen that just in the little bit that we've been able to see in practice and also in game footage as well, that he's been able to throw across his body as well.
Will it be accurate?
Well, that's the thing.
We'll see.
Especially in the wind that will probably be there on Saturday up at Dakota Field. The first scrimmage we mentioned comes up Saturday. Of course, we'll keep you fully posted on what's going to happen with both the men's basketball job in the women's basketball. We're on coaching watch here for the next little bit.
This has been the most intensive year in my 30 years in this business, just starting from football with basketball, and it hasn't stopped with those coaching changes.
No break for you.
No break.
Get right back to work.
You know, I'm Big E now. He's been on vacation
He's
for a month.
Yeah, he's off the grid. We might get him back for football season. Much more to come. Keep posted here on the video blog and on the media blog and on our Twitter feeds as well. For Jeff Kolpak, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest edition of the Bison Video Blog.